What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach Podcast, where I talk everything politics, sports, culture, and beyond. Happy to be back on the microphone once again. Hope you all are having a blessed day. I know I am. And on the agenda today is all NBA, okay? All NBA basketball, because there are a few things that are really ticking me off here, really ticking me off. And I got to speak about it. And the crazy thing is that what I'm going to be speaking about, yes, I did mention it's the NBA, but it's not really anything that has to do with on-court play. It's all things that are taking place off the basketball court. I want to speak about Nico Harrison and what the hell is going on in Dallas. The comments that were made from one Trae Young about the NBA play-in situation. Cooper Flag is headed to the NBA. And the last thing, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, but it doesn't have anything to do with the playoff series that he's up against in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers. No, it doesn't have to do with that. It has to do with something derogatory that he did towards fans. And I want to discuss that just a little bit. Now, let me be professional, make sure this is on silent, which it is. Okay. Let's start off with Nico Harrison here, because this has been going on and this has been a conversation since this whole trade happened with Luka Doncic. So late February, well, not late February, early February, February 1st, but I meant early morning, February 2nd, Luka Doncic gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. And the city of Dallas has been outraged ever since, rightfully so, by the way. I mean, you're talking about a kid that's 25 years old. 25 years old. He's been in the NBA now for 7 seasons. And at the age of 25, it is pretty much already confirmed that Luka Doncic is one of the greatest players to ever play. I'm sorry. I don't, to me, and I'm pretty sure that it's for everybody. I mean, we do have eyes here, ladies and gentlemen. We saw what this guy can do. This man was rookie of the year. And then after that, he's pretty much a perennial all-star. This guy has averaged 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists over his career since he's been in the league. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No slouch, to say the least. I mean, he could do it all for you. He could do it all for you. And then you trade him for Anthony Davis, who's a fantastic player, by the way. The only problem is that Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. He can't stay on the floor. So you gave up a kid, pretty much a kid. Luka Doncic, not even necessarily in his prime yet. And you gave him up for a guy who, when he was playing in his first game as a Dallas Maverick, choking here, folks. Is that better? Yeah. First game, Anthony Davis comes to Dallas Mavericks, and he gets injured in the third quarter. Misses a ton of games. But when he's in the lineup, he's really good. The problem is it doesn't matter if you're not on the floor. And so the entire city of Dallas, not even just the entire city, America, North America, the world, absolutely stunned, shocked, flabbergasted by this trade. But Nico Harrison now has been doing press conferences and meetings with media, and you can't bring your cameras or recording equipment. Just what exactly is going on here? And here's what ticks me off about this entire thing. Nico Harrison is the general manager. You have billionaire owners. And a guy like Luka Doncic, who's arguably the best player in basketball right now. Nico Harrison cannot make that trade without the approval of the owners. That is impossible. Since when do you know or heard of billionaires listening to people who don't have close to as much of what they have in regards to financially speaking and making business decisions? And a business move, the magnitude of moving Luka Doncic out for a player who's not as good as him. And I mentioned Anthony Davis. Yes, he is a stud. He is. But the guy cannot stay healthy. And he's about 8 years older at the same time. So what the heck is going on here? And I heard on ESPN First Take today with Stephen A. Smith talking about this move was literally all Nico Harrison, and he went to the owners to make this move. It was him who wanted to do it, and he thought it would be a good idea because defense wins championships and blah, 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 blah. Even if that were to be the case, the owners still have to approve this deal. And now that I'm seeing Nico Harrison as he's doing all these press conferences and all that kind of stuff, now it's almost like he's looking sad. I'm going to play something for you, but it's almost like he's looking sad in these press conferences and he's speaking all timid. I go, I got to show you. I'll be back. Let me just show you what's going on here. Okay.
Why shouldn't you be fired?
Well, one, I think I've done a really good job here, and I don't think I can be judged by the injuries this year. You have to judge from totality, from beginning to end. And so I think I have a really good working relationship with Patrick. I think you add in Rick. The leadership that we have is really elite. And you'll see next year when our team comes back, we're going to be competing for a championship. Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level, but really the way we looked at it is, you know, if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Anthony Davis, and Lively, we feel that's a championship caliber team, and we would have been winning at a high level, and that would have quieted some of the outrage. And so unfortunately we weren't able to do that. So it just continued to, go on and on.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, okay, I understand. You do have a nice team if everybody is in a lineup. We're talking about Kyrie, Gafford, Lively, Washington, AD. You got Max Christie. You got a bunch of guys who can play. We're not saying that we don't have guys who can't play. The question is, why the hell did you trade Luka Doncic in the first place? The man just got you to an NBA Finals. And did it in dramatic fashion at that. I mean, anybody who has eyes, who has seen Luka Doncic play the game of basketball, would understand why you don't trade a player of that caliber. Especially at the age of 25 when he's barely even hit his prime yet. I mean, it just makes absolutely positively no sense. So I ask you this. What is the real reason that Nico Harrison actually traded Luka Doncic? That is the question. And that is what we're going to have to find out at some point. Now, they did say it's because they didn't want to pay him $350 million. He didn't want to pay him $350 million. Okay. Why not? Why not? Because that is what the NBA is coming to in regards to paying out these big ass contracts. That is what it's coming to. All kinds of rumors. He likes to drink beer. He likes hookah. He likes this. He likes that. Damn it. If you can play that good on beer and hookah, you might as well build him a beer and hookah room next to the damn locker room. And listen, I'm half joking about that. Well, I am, because it is about culture. And so I understand what Nico Harrison is saying. Yes, defense wins championships. But man, you better pray something good comes out of this when all of those guys are healthy, if they're ever all healthy, which I hope they are, by the way. And listen, I'm actually rooting for Nico Harrison. I wanted to see the Dallas Mavericks make the playoffs this year. Unfortunately, they did not, but I really wanted to see them make the playoffs. I like their team when they're all healthy. We're going to have to wait till next season now to see what happens, but I mean, damn. This is not going to be a comfortable off season for Nico Harrison until everybody is back in that lineup come next season. And I want to say this as well. What was Nico Harrison promised from the owners to take the fall? Because it really makes not much sense how the fan base and everybody is just killing this guy when we all know that a trade like that, as I mentioned earlier, has to be approved by the owners for that kind of trade to go through. Like it's crazy. It is crazy that this guy is getting the brunt of this and not the ownership group. And then on top of that, the ownership group then mentions that ticket prices are going to be going up 12% after they've traded away probably arguably the best player in the NBA. That is asinine. That is insanity for something like that to happen. And so, yes, does Nico Harrison, is he partly to blame if this is his idea and all this kind of stuff? Okay, yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, you're telling me that these owners, they didn't have anybody else in the room with them that can give them consultation on such a decision. I mean, this is absolutely crazy in my opinion. Absolutely crazy. So I still think there's a bunch of things that's going to come out about this. This is not the end of this. We're going to be hearing about this all summer going into next season. But ladies and gentlemen, please don't put this all on Nico Harrison. We have brains. We know how this works. This ain't all on him. And in fact, it's more on the owners than it is on Nico Harrison. Please, let's get that part straight. Moving on. Trae Young. Trae Young had some words about the play-in. And I want to talk about this because the reason this really ticks me off, you know what? Let me just put this on here for you so you could see exactly what the hell I'm talking about here, folks. All right, scrap the effing play-in. You play 82 games in the regular season, and that should be enough to determine which teams are going to the playoffs. Now, Trae, let me explain something. I'm with you here. I'm with you, and I think a lot of people are with you as well. The problem is that when they were doing it that way, you have 8 teams who are locked into the playoffs, and then you have 7 teams who hang it up and tank for the rest of the season for the number 1 pick because as it currently is, the system that the NBA has, they reward losing. You heard me correctly. I said the NBA rewards losing, and that is always a bad thing. And I've said this on multiple podcasts at this point. That absolutely needs to change. It needs to change. It is a problem. It is a problem. You see, it's tough to get these guys to compete in the first place, which is why they had to put the play-in into existence. They're trying to get teams to compete. And as I mentioned, when you have 8 teams that automatically just make the playoffs, just like that, the other 7 do absolutely nothing until the end of the season. Guys out the lineup, nobody wants to play, faking injuries, so you can lose for that number 1 pick. And because the system is set up that way, can you really fault organizations for wanting to do that? Not really. I mean, it's understandable. I get it. It doesn't negate the fact that it's still a problem. You do not want to reward teams for losing, which is why I suggested that teams need to switch and change the way the NBA needs to change the way that they do the NBA draft in regards to its lottery and the percentages, right? And I mentioned the reason tanking for picks, the fans are mad on top of that because they're playing a bunch of money for these tickets and then you're coming there and you're not getting to see anyone play. It's bad for ratings on top of that. Nobody wants to watch the games when these guys aren't playing. Your ticket sales are lowering. So you're not selling tickets like you really want to, obviously. And then overall, it just makes for a bad product. It just makes for a bad product, which is why I suggest again. And folks, let me know in the comments if I have something here. People have spoken about this before. Wouldn't be the first time. But get into the comments and let me know. I want your feedback here. We just saw a play-in between Dallas, Sacramento. We saw the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat get in, and who is the eighth place team here in the NBA right now? Who is first? Oklahoma City. So Memphis gets in with the 8th spot. Okay, so those teams get in. Now the teams that didn't get in, Dallas and Atlanta, right? And then you have the other teams, like I mentioned, Chicago and Sacramento. Instead of incentivizing teams to lose to get the number one pick, it needs to be flipped around so that the best teams to not make the playoffs are the ones who have the highest percentage to get the number one pick. So now Cooper Flag would have a higher percentage of going to either Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, or Sacramento. And you reward those teams for being the best teams to not make the playoffs. That way, the 14 teams who are not in the playoffs are still competing and playing as hard as they can because it increases their chances of getting the number one pick. And if that is the case, the GM is going to be on your ass. The coaches are going to be on your ass. You can still be rewarded this way for playing hard and winning games. Simple fix here, folks. Simple fix. And yes, some of the players, if you think about it, would some of them be pissed off because you're competing to get a high pick for a guy who's trying to come in and take their job? Possibly. But if you're not going to compete, you can hit the bench and the coaching staff and GMs can bring in players who are going to compete to get you a higher percentage pick. Period. Simple. And so that is my thing when it comes to this draft. And I would much rather see a guy like Cooper Flag going on a better team and some of these god-awful teams that were Charlotte, Washington, Utah. Like, don't get me wrong. I like all NBA teams, and every NBA team will have a chance with some decent players if they can put a good team together, coaching staff, and, you know, you have the requisite scouts to go out there and do their thing. But overall, man, I would rather see a good overall pick, whether it be 1, 2, or 3, with some of these teams that played harder and performed better during the season. That's what I really think. And if teams get held accountable for finishing in last place, 30th, 29th, 28th, trust me, there will be a lot more changes in the front office to coaches, assistant coaches, scouting. There would have to be a lot more accountability, and they would be making changes to make sure that it's not just their buddies and friends being brought in to take these positions. At least that's the way that I see it. Okay, now, so that's me addressing the whole Trae Young, and I kind of fixed it in with Cooper Flag coming into the league at the same time. Now, Last thing before I get out of here. This was pretty interesting. And I wanted to have the video for this, but I don't have the video. So if you guys get a chance, go check out Anthony Edwards. Okay. Anthony Edwards. I'm going to go on to X right now because I forgot to. Well, let me see if I can get you the video on here. My computer. I think I need a new computer at this point, folks, because I'm trying to show you guys videos and things are all out of sync. And my computer is moving like a dinosaur at this point. I don't know what the hell is going on. Let's go to Sham's page on X. And so, first of all, Anthony Edwards was fined $50,000. And I'm going to read you the tweet. So, the NBA is fining Minnesota's Anthony Edwards $50,000 for his. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have children in the room right now, I would suggest to you that let me get this out of here. I would suggest to you that you cover the ears right now. Because Anthony Edwards said something pretty derogatory, and I am going to mention it, ladies and gentlemen. He said, "My dick is bigger than yours." Comments to the Laker crowd. Now, I'm going to try and get you the clip right here, right now. Let's see. Anthony Edwards. Let's get this clip in here. Hopefully it shows. Here it is. All right. So let's pause it here. Folks, I'm going to share my screen with you so you can both take a look. Let's get rid of this Nico Edwards. Sorry, Nico Harrison stuff. Trae Young, let's get rid of that. All right. Now let me show you this Anthony Edwards stuff. Share my screen with you. Can you guys see it? Here we go.
You suck.
My goodness. My goodness. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. Hopefully, you guys were all able to see that properly. But ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, I just showed you that video. Anthony Edwards was fined $50,000 for this. But, the NBA has a problem here. And they have a problem with some of these young cats and maturity. And the crazy thing is that two of the faces or two of the guys that the NBA would like to be the face of the league in regards to Anthony Edwards and Ja Morant, two of the most spectacular talents that you will ever see. It seems to me like they have a bit of a maturity issue. The other problem is, and maybe it's not a problem, maybe I look at it as a problem, but really it's not a problem. These are just two guys who don't want to be the face of the NBA. Anthony Edwards already said it. Because, I mean, what's the point? What's the point? Just to be shit on? Pretty much? In the media? I believe that's one of the things he says. Don't quote me on that, but what is the incentive now for these guys to want to be the face of the league? Because it seems to me like times have changed. It seems to me like times have changed. Now, there used to be a lot of players who wanted to take on that extra responsibility because of the maturity that came with it. But I really just don't think these guys give a damn anymore. Just pay me. Let me go in there, do work, and that's it. Punch in, punch out. They're great for the media, especially Anthony Edwards, in my opinion. But it does seem to me like there's a bit of a maturity issue. Not the first time him or Ja Morant have, gotten fines for doing stuff that are excessive and whatnot. But I don't want to seem like the old guy, get off my lawn kind of guy. But, at the end of the day, it just seems like these are two guys who are not interested in being the face of the league. And listen, that's completely fine, because if it's not you two, then guess what? You're just giving up the way for it to be Shea Gillis Alexander. Okay? Shea Gildress. Is that how it's pronounced? Shea Gildress Alexander? Anyway, If you have three of these guys and put them up next to each other, Shea looks like he would be the right guy for the job to be the next face of the league. He's about to be the MVP. And aside from that, he ain't getting fined for stuff like this. He ain't getting fined for stuff like this. So to me, and yes, we've heard multiple people speak about it, and they said, oh no, it won't really resonate like that. Why? Because he's from Canada. He ain't American. And you already know how that goes. It's got to be an American player. Ladies and gentlemen, you will see times, I said times, are about to change. Times are about to change. The face of the league will be Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You can book it. You can book that. And the last thing I want to say in regards to maturity, and listen, I heard Isaiah Thomas talk about this the other night when he was going off on LeBron James. Remember about when LeBron had his shirt off in warmups and he said the professionalism in the NBA is diminished and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that the NBA should go back to wearing suits? What are your comments? Because he mentioned that, and then Steve Smith also mentioned that players, coaches as well, should go back to wearing suits. Do you think the NBA would get more endorsements if players looked and dressed and had a more mature feel to them in that regard? I don't know. I'm just curious. It's just a question here. I'm asking you. You can let me know in the comments. I'm just wondering. They're just pretty wild right now with outlandish, outrageous stuff, but they're expressing themselves, and I'm cool with that, and I get it. But I'm wondering if they look more GQ'd up, suit and tie, smooth, 007 type look, except better because, these brothers, they know how to fix themselves up when they're ready. They know how to fix themselves up when they're ready. But I'm wondering if you think they would get more endorsements than they even get now if they looked and behaved more in a professional manner. I really don't know. You could let me know in the comments, but I do think it's a question worth asking. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's topics, please take a moment, follow, subscribe, like, and rate the podcast. Your feedback is always welcome and helps me reach more listeners who are just as passionate about these topics as you are. And don't forget to hit me up on social media. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find me at Mike Roach 7 on X, at Mike Roach 7 on IG, at Mike Roach 23 on X. And you can also check me out for more engaging content on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Now, I am going to start uploading on there again. I mentioned to you on the last podcast that I haven't been doing so just because I've been trying to bring all the traction and attention to the YouTube channel. And I'm going to be going back to uploading all my stuff on Apple and Spotify. And thank you for all the love and support. I have now eclipsed over 700 subscribers on YouTube, and it is still growing. So, folks, it is your boy, Mike Roach. This is the Mike Roach Podcast, and I'll be back again soon. Thanks for listening, and I'm out.